Petra, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Daddy? Mr. Kelly?
Here.
Dr. Curran?
Say here.
I can't hear Petra, but I am definitely here.
Mr. Farrell?
Here.
Ms. Hennessy?
Here.
Mr. Arnold?
Here. Okay, we have a quorum. The first agenda item is approval of minutes, previous minutes. First is the meeting of October 19th, 2019. 2019? No.
2019?
What's what it says here?
Yeah.
I didn't do the agenda.
She's throwing you under the bus, John.
We put sick after that, John. SIC, you know?
You're looking at the wrong minutes.
Okay. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of October 19th, 2023?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Anybody abstaining today?
Got you on that one, huh?
Nice job.
Well, you told me I had to do that now.
Well,
He told me I had to do
Nice
that
job.
now.
didn't approve the procedures yet. When you get to that.
Okay. Next item is Planning Commission meeting minutes of December 6th, 2023. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes as written?
So moved.
We have a motion, second?
Second.
A second. Any discussion? None? Hearing none? Can I have the vote? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay. Planning Commission meeting minutes of January 10th, 2024. We don't have those. I have not done yet. That's what Petra told me this a little earlier. So we will table that approval until the March meeting.
So moved.
Do we have to? Yeah, we have to have a motion for that. But they're not done, so I. Okay. Do we have to have a move? Do we have to have a move? I don't
The
think.
agenda.
Not to defer the
Okay. Okay. So not to defer it. Okay. All right. The next item on the agenda is public comments. Do we have any comments from the public? Okay. Please state your name, your address on Kiowa.
Yes, I am Lee Bundrick. I'm with the Kiowa Conservancy as their Senior Conservation Coordinator, and we are at 80 Kestrel Court.
Thank you.
I'm here to talk about some of the agenda items related to Captain Sam Spit. We've been working since early December, looking into this situation, working with the town in Kika regarding this, the situation related to the spit. With recent, developments, we submitted a letter to the town this morning addressed to Mayor Labriola, which was also given to other council members regarding our thoughts and position on Captain Sam Spit, as well as the rezoning that y'all will be discussing today. And with that, the intent of the ARDA is being looked at, and obviously there are sections within 16F that are under consideration here. And with that intent, we see that y'all are looking to rezone this area to Parks and Recreation. And while this is a downzoning from R1, it still allows about 70% maximum lot coverage for this specific zoning right. And we think this is still going to impact the natural habitat and the pristine values of Captain Sam Spit, which may not be the intent of Planning Commission or the town in general. And we're recommending and suggesting that to consider the use of KC Conservation District in order to preserve the pristine nature of Captain Sam Spit and to further the obligations of the partners under the ARDA.
Thank you. Thank you. I assume that that's the position of the Conservancy. Okay, thank you. Anybody else like to comment?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, and those in the audience, my name is Mark Primar. I live at 81 Dungannon Hall, here representing Kiowa Partners. I mostly have a question, which is during your deliberations about the pending comprehensive plan and rezoning, will there be opportunity for those of us in the audience to interact at that point?
We'll discuss that when we get to that point. If a motion is made and to defer, yes, then we're going to have a public, we're going to have public comments then.
During the discussion?
We have to defer from the, it's on the agenda now, and we have to defer taking it up today, and then at that point in time, it gives us time to schedule a public session.
So the answer is no.
Today?
During the discussion?
Today.
Yeah.
No.
All right. So I'll reserve most of my comments till the second offering for public comments. We support the general effort to correct a rezoning that you had recommended last fall to Town Council to rezone the PRC holding within the parcel, the greater parcel, which essentially created a non-conforming use, that the park became a non-conforming use. So the proposal from the staff to rezone a segment of Captain Sam's, which includes the TMS number associated with the PRC leaseholding, it does correct a condition where we as a community created a non-conforming use. The Park and Recreation will make it a conforming use. We do not support the balance of Captain Sam's parcel to rezone from R1 to PR as recommended by the staff. I'll reserve more comments at a later stage, but part of the question that we asked during your deliberation is you obviously considered rezonings multiple times in various parcels last fall and took action on those appropriately as recommended and then acted upon by the town. What has changed since that review, which was rather intense over multiple meetings that you had before you formally recommended, what has changed to warrant now further down zoning of Captain Sam's? So I appreciate the opportunity to discuss that with everyone in the room hopefully during the conversation, but at the next public comment period. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. With that, we are now taking up the old business, and then we have to approve the rules of procedure for 2024 that was deferred until this meeting from January. Do I have a motion to accept the rules of procedure as presented in the package?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, is there any discussion?
I have one comment regarding the draft before us. The comments I made at the last meeting regarding certain additions have been corrected. This is basically in conformity with last year's with some minor changes which are identified and have been required as a result of changes either in the ordinances or in practices during the year. The only comment I have with respect to this one is on page 2, section 7G. We made a change in the notice requirement, mailing notices in case of zoning changes in the ordinance from 300 to 500 feet. And the question here, it's unclear as to what the area is that we're talking about. If we're going to have this, and my own view is this is not required here since it's already in the ordinance and it's really not a procedure of the commission. So it shouldn't be here, but if it's going to be here, if it's going to stay here, I would suggest we identify the language from the ordinance here rather than just throw out the general idea of an area, not knowing which one we're talking about.
So let me see if I understand this, Andy. I'm looking at the 7G that you noticed. That it does not have any, it doesn't have 300 or 500 feet there. It just says
Area.
area. So
That's
you're
what I'm
saying
saying.
that it should be more specific?
It should be language in the ordinance, yeah.
Should be, so you're, okay, you want to make a motion?
I made a motion, and that's my comment.
But you have to make a motion to amend
Unless
it.
there are no other comments, I'll make a motion, yeah.
Any other comments?
Well, you can make the motion, and if it's seconded, there can be a discussion of it.
Okay.
I move we delete section G.
Section, which one?
G. Page 7.
Section 7, item G, or subset G.
Okay. And you want to remove that?
Yeah, because he
Delete it.
says it's in the ordinance.
I'll second.
You have a motion seconded. Any discussion?
Explain again, Andy, why we would delete this versus not just putting the 500-foot area radius in there now?
We're not deleting it from any ordinance, we're deleting it from the standards of rules, our rules. The rule is already codified in the ordinance. We don't need to have it in our rules. It's not a rule of procedure, it's basically a rule of the ordinance or the town.
Yeah, but this defines what the staff shall do. So, I mean, guess we could say they should follow all ordinances, and we could get rid of all of this.
This is what the council does, not the
No,
staff.
Section 7, staff.
Yeah,
Town of
well,
Kiowa Planning Department staff shall. So this,
with
A through
respect
G.
to a council meeting, yeah, I agree with
through
that.
G is about
Mr. Chair.
what their responsibilities are.
Yes, John?
Responsibilities, not the council responsibilities.
Right.
Yet this is the council rules, or the commission rules, not the staff rules.
I think what it does is, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but it outlines each of the different components of our organization. So it talks about what the chairman should do, what the vice chairman, what the secretary, and what the staff. The staff is a component of the planning commission. They're not on the commission, but they're a component of our meetings, everything.
If you want to amend the motion to include the language from the ordinance, I have no problem with that. I don't think it's necessary, but if,
Let me ask John. John, you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to add just a little bit of context. Item 7G, this previously did include the specific number, 300 feet prior to us making that amendment when we reviewed our rules of procedures. The rationale of removing it, the actual specific number at that time was to point that it was already covered within the zoning code, so it would be duplicating. Anytime we made a change in the zoning code, we would have to come back and make an amendment in the rules of procedure. So it was broadened to this language to say we would just direct what the requirements were regarding mailing notices to what would be in the zoning code. So that's the reason the specific number was removed from 7G.
Which seems to make sense.
just to add to that, if you look at the rest of them, A through F, they're talking about staff requirements with respect to meetings and the commission meetings, not what's in an ordinance. There's a lot of requirements for staff activity in the ordinances.
Yeah. No, I think I agree with Andy that we don't need it in our rules of procedure because those are jobs in the ordinance. This just refers to the meeting thing. So I agree with you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. We have a motion, and it's been seconded to eliminate G from Section 7. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Now, we can take a motion. Do we have a motion out there that's been seconded to accept the, yeah, we do, for accept the rules of procedure?
Do we, Petra?
Yes, I think we did. So now we can go back to, now we can vote.
Any further discussion?
Further
or amendment?
discussion? Yeah. Any further discussion?
No.
No.
Okay. Now we can vote on the accepting the rules of procedure as amended. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Okay. Now we have an update on Kiwa Next.
Very brief. I just wanted to put on the record, which was noticed to you all, that February 20th will be our workshop date. That will be the meeting date that we sort of reconvene, and the purpose of that will be to really flesh out the working draft document that shows the objectives that was redlined and presented, and so we will do a workshop with that, and that'll be our foundation of getting this a ready document prepared moving forward. I have met with our lead, David Bird, who's the principal at LS3P, and so he'll be at that meeting to walk us through, and so he's excited to meet all of you. And so that I'll keep it very brief, but February 20th will be that workshop date.
Who's going to lead the meeting, John?
We will collectively lead that meeting, but I instructed Mr. Burt to at least provide us with a path forward after this meeting of how we kind of continue this drum.
Okay, so he's just getting oriented. Is that
Yeah, this is
correct?
more of an oriented meeting, just because we've already provided your set of comments from that last draft, and so he's coming up to speed with that, but he really wants to just put a face and understand the validity of all of those particular objectives so that they can begin to work hand in hand with what's already been done as that red line that the commission has worked on.
Will we be getting another copy, an
Yeah.
updated
Yes,
copy
we will
prior to
get
the
we will
workshop?
get that before that meeting. Yes.
The other, John, would you, it would be helpful for me for sure. Could you, before the meeting, tell us how you intend, I mean, is it going to be like we did it before where the entire commission listens to goes through each of the points, or are we going to break up in subgroups, or have you decided on that yet?
I think the initial one will be more of a collective group, just because
Okay.
I think we feel generally comfortable with what we have, and then breaking out maybe at a later date to really get to more specifics. But I think we feel comfortable holding the group together now with what we have as the general revised draft
Okay,
document.
you guys okay with that?
I have a question, John. You said we're going to get another copy that's redlined.
So the
Following the meeting, the last meeting, there was a set of comments submitted by certain members of the commission. Those were incorporated in a draft that was again sent to the staff, to the commission members. Are you updating that version, or which one are you updating?
The one that you received, that latest copy, that did include revisions that were prepared by members of the planning commission, would be the document that will be fine-tuned for our
So
workshop.
the latest version that we have is going to be updated?
Correct.
And when are we going to get that?
I had the request in. We had a meeting late last week, so I anticipate hopefully between the end of this week, early next week, that I'll have that ready for you guys.
Okay. It's also, yeah, as you've heard many times from us, it's helpful to get it at least a week in advance.
10-4.
Yeah,
you.
given schedules, the earlier we get it, the better.
Okay. Now, the next, and we're going to new business, and the first item of business is an executive session. Can I have a motion that the commission goes into executive session?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're going to go into
Board of Zoning Appeals, and it is to modify the terms of office of members.
Daniel, excuse me, I know the microphone doesn't reach that high, but could you lift it up a little closer?
I got you.
Thank you.
So this will be our recommendation meeting today, February 7th. We plan on having a public hearing and first reading on March 5th. And then our second reading is planned April 2nd.
No, no.
Oh, there it is up there.
Yeah, it's not on our.
It's up there, but it's not on our screens.
Well, we have,
We're still having a special call town council meeting.
So March 5th would be a special call meeting?
March 5th is the town council,
Town council.
regular
So you're
town
talking
council.
town council's going to have it, not the planning commission?
Correct. So that'll be the first reading of town council.
So we just refer it today. We approve it. If we approve it,
Well,
we
if
refer.
we approve
we
it
approve it,
today,
then we refer it to town council.
correct. Mhm. So do y'all have it on y'all's screens?
We're ready. We're good. We're good, Daniel.
Okay. Purpose of this text amendment is to establish term limits for the members of Planning Commission as well as the Board of Zoning Appeals. So the Planning Commission right now serves a term office of 4 years. And the proposed text amendment introduces a three consecutive term of office limit for the Planning Commission. And that draft language is as follows. No member shall serve more than 3 consecutive term of office, provided, however, that such member shall be eligible to hold office after a break in service of 24 months. Similar with the Board of Zoning Appeals, except they serve a term of office of 3 years instead of 4. That proposed text amendment introduces a 3 consecutive term of office limit as well. Questions?
Shall I make a motion to approve?
Are you through with the presentation, Daniel?
No, we're still going. So the approval criteria for a zoning text amendment is as follows. The proposed amendment is consistent with the purposes and intent of the adopted Town of Kiowa Island Comprehensive Plan. The proposed amendment is consistent with the purposes of and intent of this article. The purpose of the proposed amendment is to further the general health, safety, and welfare of the Town of Kiowa. And the proposed amendment corrects an error, inconsistency, or meets the challenge of a changed condition. Staff believes the criteria is met for these 2 zoning text amendments. So as of today, Planning Commission shall review and take action recommending that the Town Council approve or deny the proposed amendment. And the Planning Commission recommendation shall be based off that same criteria. A simple majority vote of the Planning Commission members present voting shall be required to approve the amendment.
So they're 2 separate, other than one for the planning commission and one for the board of zone.
They're under the same ordinance, so you can take them together.
Together, yeah.
Take them together.
I make a motion that we approve the text amendment as recommended.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ron.
So obviously, some council or some commission members have shortened terms, 1 year, 2 years. Well, they'll still have the same stipulation of 3 consecutive terms. Not everyone has a 4-year term.
Everyone has a 4-year term unless you were replacing a vacant seat. So that vacant seat you would count as a term. So if that particular seat is in its second year of a 4-year, that first 4 years, then that's still part of that first term. So you would, does that make sense?
Yeah, and so no one can serve more than 3 consecutive terms, regardless of how long your term is.
Correct, yes.
Right, so that means, because I think Ron and I are both filling out terms, so instead of 12 years, should we want to stay on that long, we could only stay on 10.
Who'd want to do that? Who'd want to do that? Who'd want to do that?
Given the fact that I seconded the motion
What's that?
doesn't indicate my vote on the issue, but I do have a question. Your discussion on the approval criteria, could you cite where in a comprehensive plan this is consistent with the intent or the purpose of the plan?
For what purpose?
So the general purpose of the comprehensive
Purpose of the
plan-
amendment.
The purpose of the amendment is to administer one of the effective bodies that administers, well, two rather, the Planning Commission and the Board of Zoning Appeals. So if you look at the introductory sections of each of those ordinances, like reference to the section 1223 and 24, those are all directives by entities or not entities, committees that are established by council through state law, but those are all consistent with execution of the comprehensive plan. So each of these boards has, by definition, some role and influence of executing the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, it's a stretch, a long, wide stretch. The fact that the comprehensive plan is a 10-year document, updated occasionally, and contains a bunch of, if you will, wish list for the future of the entity, there's nothing specific in there that this can be attached to.
Yeah. Andy,
These
let me interrupt for a second. Are you, is this important for you to be able to make a vote?
Yeah, it really questions whether or not it should be approved on this term. The simple question is it appropriate to limit the term? It's got nothing to do with the comprehensive plan. The next one is consistent with the purposes of and intent of the article. There's no intent listed in the article. There's no purpose other than created by authority.
So are you saying we should just have a separate ordinance for term limits and not refer to any of this stuff? I mean, if none of us
I
object
wouldn't use
to
that as a basis for approval.
Okay, so I guess the question is, does anybody have an objection to the term limits? And if not, then your question is, what is the mechanism for making it happen?
Well, let me ask the second question before I answer that one. The second question is, as I understand it, the council approved, I don't know whether it's in procedures or whatever, of appointing committee members, that the chairman has the right, if you will, to agree and appoint the committee member based on the approval of the council. But the appointment is based on the chairman of the committee, not the council.
The chairman recommends to the council. The council has the authority to appoint.
Okay, let me step in here for a second. Now you're getting into a different issue. So the question is,
Same issue.
no,
No, it's
no,
not.
it's not. It's not. That's within the, this is about term limits. This is not who serves, how the commissioner, or how the chairman is, how the council is
No,
staffed
it
and how the
appoints who a
chairman.
member, who can be a member. If, in my judgment, item 3 read, no member shall serve term more than 3 years unless the chairman of the committee, for whatever reason, stated reason, agrees to extend it, that would be in keeping with the procedure of the chair of the committee recommending approval of an individual. Then it would be up to council to decide if they want to grant that.
So you're saying if this is passed, the chair of the commission would not be able to make that recommendation if somebody over there?
Correct.
I don't know, John, do you?
I don't have a problem with the term limits.
I don't have a problem with it either. As it's written, I do.
So I would just say if the commission's comfortable with language or not comfortable with language, then just make a recommendation based on what's listed. If there's additional language, we can amend, but I would just, if there's no comfortability with what's in the text as what's being the request before the commission today to make this amendment, then we can come back, but I don't see an issue.
Let me do it this way. Andy, if you want to make a motion and get a second, we can vote on it. And the motion would be to not approve this, and you would need a second.
Make a motion to amend the text of item 3 to include the ability of the chairman of the commission to recommend a variance of the requirement in certain circumstances, and amending it by adding the language that unless the chairman, for whatever stated reason, recommends the extension.
Do we have a second? Hearing none, the motion is not approved.
I make a motion, we approve the text amendment as written.
Do we have a second?
Second.
And we have a
Second.
Motion, any discussion? Hearing none, let's vote on whether we should recommend to town council to approve.
I'm
the
sorry, I
text
do
amendment.
have, I apologize. I was thinking if I had it, I did have one question, if I still may.
Just under the wire.
What happens, when is this implemented? So does this mean that I have 2 more terms, or after this is implemented, then I have 3 more terms?
I would think it's a total of, I just was approved for my second term. This won't get approved till April. I would assume it means I can fill out my second term and have 1 more, not 3 more after.
And that's what I would think too. I'm just asking Joe or John or somebody, what is this, how does this work?
Oh, we talked about that. The term you are currently in counts as one of the 3.
Okay. That's what I've guessed, but I thought I'd ask.
So you got 2 more.
Okay, so we've got a motion on the floor. It's been seconded, and we've had some discussion. Are we ready to vote? Okay. All in favor of recommending the text amendments to the town council, say aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Aye. The motion carries. Did Ron vote?
Yes, aye.
Aye, okay. So the motion carries 5-1. Okay,
4-1.
4-1.
4-1. Hey,
We're missing
Matt, you
Matt.
know?
She can't vote.
He's not a math guy.
Not a math guy.
You know, I'm a touchy-feely guy.
All right.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the comprehensive plan amendment request to amend the comprehensive plan as, this is the Captain Sam's bit. John, would you present the information to us, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission. We have a comprehensive plan amendment request as well as a rezoning request. I'll do them together, but take the comprehensive plan amendment request first. This is case number ACP 24-000001. This particular request does amend our current comprehensive plan. Today is treating as a recommendation of the Planning Commission with a public hearing scheduled for March 5th of 2024. The request is to change the future land use designation for the subject property. This is one parcel, parcel 207-205-00-0001, from low density residential. We've listed what has been the designation for the subset of this parcel, what has been identified by Charleston County as the Beachwalker Park lease site. It has its own registered TMS number, so we've included that as part of this particular application. But to know this is one official parcel of record. The recommendation is to go to active recreation and open space. As you know, the future land use is intended to provide guidance for the location and types of proposed future uses to support the land use and planning and zoning ordinance for the town. These land use elements do look at flexible yet predictable methods to determine the appropriateness of proposed development for the future. This particular parcel is located on the west end of Kiowa. The property owner, KDB2 LLC. As you all have already been aware, this is more commonly known as Captain Sam Spit, located Beachwalker Drive. I've outlined the TMS numbers for this and recognize again, just for the record, that the Beachwalker County parcel that's a subset of this, it's not an official parcel by plat, but recognized by our Charleston County's GISF for the purposes of the county park itself. Approximately 173 acres in total size, and what's been outlined as the current future land use designations by what's been outlined as low density residential, medium density residential. Here is that future land use map. The commission reviewed this last fall, and that particular recommendation of rezoning took this particular parcel from a portion of it R3/C to the R2, where the county park is, the R1 zoning district for where the majority of the western part of Captain Sam Spit. Here's an aerial shot of the parcel. You can see the
John,
parcel.
can you go back, please? So just to be clear, you're talking about the yellow parking area and then the whole of Captain Sam Spit, not just that brown area?
Correct.
Okay.
So, and the whole of Captain Sam Spit includes Beachwalker Park?
Correct.
Can we do them separately, Beachwalker versus Captain Sam Spit?
It's record of one plat, so this would be one zoning designation applied to this particular parcel.
Is there a way we could change it so that we separate the plats? So it could be two zoning designations?
Official subdivision of the plat would be able to have that where you subdivide the plat into separate lots and apply whatever zoning designations or the future land use designations. That would be one of the mechanisms to do that.
Doesn't it have that right now?
It does not. So if you look at the official plat of record for this particular lot, it's this, and I'll show you here just in this area photo, that's officially one parcel. So the area.
But parts R1 and parts R2.
Yes, it's that designation that we did for the R2 designation followed the specific outline that was carved out for the county park without showing that this was, in fact, by plat of record, only one parcel. So that the official plat of record for this shows the property boundaries for Captain Sam's. And I think most people only identify Captain Sam's as this, I'm using my cursor here for those in the room here. When people think of Captain Sam's, they're only thinking primarily of the teardrop portion of the parcel, but the entire parcel is what we're considering for rezoning today.
And so that part on the far right is the Beachwalker Park.
Correct.
And there are two TMS numbers for this plat?
There's two TMS numbers. One of those TMS numbers is only used by Charleston County to identify the area for the county park.
So if we wanted to do a subdivision, that would be a good way to do it, the county park versus the rest of the spit.
Yeah, the property owner would still need to submit the subdivision of the plat. That isn't something the planning commission would subdivide a property owner's parcel, but that would be something the property owner would consider.
So after the conveyance, or as this conveyance to Kika from the partners goes with that section behind next to the river, is this being surveyed now? Is there going to be a second plat going to be created once that's transferred?
Could I get through this and then?
It's directly related to this.
I'm saying, I want to get through the first components of the comprehensive plan amendment request for the future land use, because I do think I will come to what I think address what your question is as far as what I think
Dividing
are
the
next
pieces up into
steps,
separate
what kind of
parcels.
next steps.
John, let me ask the question relative to this proposal, and that is, why is it necessary to even come close to amending the plan for something, number one, when the comprehensive plan is already being amended and will come in a near time? And secondly, what the comprehensive plan establishes is seemingly met already by having a method for determining the appropriateness of the proposed development. We're not questioning at this stage whether it's appropriate or not for the development. There's no proposal for development.
Andy, can I interrupt a second? John is, what he wants to do is communicate the application and what's been asked for. We'll have the ability to start questioning him about alternatives and things of that nature. But he wants to get through and detail everything that's.
Fine, I thought that we were in a discussion period. I heard a couple
not yet.
discussion
Yeah,
questions.
that's really why, to Mr. Farrell, that's really why I wanted to at least
Yep, sorry.
provide the platform you guys to have.
Continue,
Yeah,
sorry.
okay. So here's an aerial, and then what staff did include as part of your presentation are just some images of the site. We did not go and walk the entire Captain Sam's spit for you, but we did capture some of the images, what you are familiar with, the county park, the entrances you saw where the emergency beach access is located on the sort of northern area. Then a couple images just looking over towards the west end there. So within the comprehensive plan amendment application, we recognize what the current, based on our rezonings that occurred, what the current future land use designations are, low density and medium density, based on how I've outlined those already. What the recommendation that has been reviewed and presented for this to be active recreation and open space. And I know there are questions of why this particular recommendation versus a conservation land use. So I'll share what staff's considerations were, and then also allow you to understand that as well in the zoning aspect in the zoning district. So in our current comprehensive plan, active recreation and open space, this category is intended to promote the development of community parks, recreational facilities, to include parks, golf courses, and tennis courts. This also provides for lands that are intended to remain in their natural state. This includes land use that have been protected through conservation easements or that are publicly or privately owned. So that's the future land use designation that staff has outlined that would marry closely to what the intended or current uses or future uses rather most align with this particular parcel. Before I go into, I won't go over the Planning Commission recommendations. You are familiar with your call to action. What's in our zoning code is the approval criteria, which is that the approved criteria, these may be approved by the town council, Planning Commission's recommendation, if the proposed amendment is consistent with the overall purpose and intents of the comprehensive plan. Staff believes that those are consistent. And so here's where I want to be able to outline a few things based on some additional context. I shared with you in email form some what I would call moving parts to the equation, and regarding this particular parcel, you all have been made aware of in process the conveyances by the property owner to the community association for portions of Captain Sam Spit, which would include portions of the beachfront and marshlands. Staff had a pre-application meeting with representatives of KDV to discuss the application process and what they would need in order to have those plats submitted. That would include a waiver request from the Planning Commission because that particular plats would not meet our subdivision regulations. Those have been submitted to the town, and we anticipate that those will be on our March meeting agenda. That being said, those particular requests, at least one of those would outline which areas are being conveyed to the community association. That's been publicized already in the community that is those processes are undertaking or in churning, for lack of better words here. The staff received questions regarding the intent of or how active recreation or even parks and recreation was considered for a recommendation of this parcel. There has been also questions raised on what might be the best ways to look at how processing this. So this is where I want to, this was not shared, but you've seen this slide before in previous presentations, land use and planning tools. And so the question that I want to, not question, but guidance that staff's part is as part of the recommendation of active recreation and open space is so you to understand that our comprehensive plan, our zoning code for Kiowa development agreements, other municipalities use a number of different tools to accomplish what they may want to see occur on a particular parcel for, and so with this being before the Planning Commission, after staff makes their recommendation, you all may feel free to make a recommendation to council, but understanding that zoning is only one particular tool and way to accomplish whatever goals that you may see fit for the future of the property. The second component to this, I think here, Mr. Chair, I'll stop because the other component is zoning, unless you want me to kind of talk a little bit about the zoning metrics, but that's a stopping point at least for the comprehensive plan, future land use designation.
Okay, I'm trying to sort this all on my mind. So what I heard you say is that that there's a lot of moving parts. There's a conveyance that's it's still not settled yet, and several other items that are still to be determined. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and I also heard you say that Parks and Recreation is what's been one of the recommendations that the staff has brought, but there are others that we could consider too, such as conservancy, or if we could subdivide the plat, so we could then look at multiple overlays maybe or something of that nature.
Correct. So the staff has recommended active recreation, parks and recreation. The Planning Commission could recommend commercial if they wanted to. Mm-hmm. I'm just throwing out that you all could recommend any zoning district in the catalog that we have a new particular zoning district that creates its own standards. I just want to know that you have that flexibility.
Well, at this point, John, what I'd like to understand from the Planning Commission, because the next part is then we would go into the comprehensive plan changes, right? And that's dependent upon.
We would go, so they're coupled, right? So we have a future land use designation request as well as an actual zoning designation request. So in my mind, you can entertain one now, or you can have the other one introduced. You can not discuss the second one, the actual zoning, if you feel that this is going to head in a different.
But aren't they tied together? I mean, if you would assume that if we approve the text amendment, then we would use that as the basis for going into the,
Zoning.
to the second, into the amendment required, the zoning map.
So then I would let me just share just a few comments then, and then you all can maybe debate or open it up for discussion there.
Okay.
So regarding the zoning map, this is case on your agenda REZ 24-000001. This follows the same amendment application for today. Planning Commission recommendation has been scheduled. Advertisement of March 5th for a public hearing with the Town Council. Same property information as before, same TMS number, so I won't review those in details. I'll flip to the zoning map to show you the R1 designation and the R2 designation that was outlined for the common area for the Beach Walker Park lease site. The staff recommendation, I'll flip through the images once more, but the staff recommendation for this was Parks and Recreation. This being most closely aligned to what the standards the uses allowed today and accommodate particular future land uses. We also did receive communication when we did this the last time from the county park, Charleston County Parks and Recreation Commission, that they supported the Parks and Recreation zoning district for this particular site, even though they're the leasee to the site. The property owners did also show support for Parks and Recreation for this particular site. The staff finds that Parks and Recreation is consistent, as mentioned just before in the previous comprehensive plan amendment request. The other zoning districts as conservation, that has been discussed heavily, so I'll just share, I think, the differences between the two. Maybe I've included as part of your materials that you can see KC, our conservation zoning district, how that differs from our Parks and Recreation zoning district. I should have included that. The KC zoning district essentially is a zoning district that does not allow any development to occur. It's been identified currently now for areas that are prime for conservation. Boardwalks are accepted into that, but no development would be allowed in the conservation district. With that being said, the current county park site would become a non-conforming structure in conservation if this particular lot were to go to conservation. So the county park being a development there would be a non-conforming use then.
Let me know when you're having a break.
Sure.
So you said the next step, or basically one of the next steps, is that at the March meeting that the developer is going to come to us and ask us for a waiver to subdivide the plats because they don't meet criteria for subdivisions. So we're going to have to create a waiver to subdivide the plat so they can then convey some of the plat to Kika. Is that correct?
Yeah, so they will be presenting a plat that carves out portions for conveyance. And so those
Correct.
portions for conveyance would require a waiver.
Right. So one of the things that you said earlier in the discussion is that since this is one plat, that we really need to give it one designation. But come March 5th, when we present them with the waiver, it's no longer going to be just one plat. It's going to be a bunch of subdivisions.
Well, it would still show a parcel of record. The areas of conveyance would just be tied to whatever is being conveyed to by deed or to
But
community association.
since they're going to be a subdivision, wouldn't they be able to have their own zoning designation? I mean, couldn't that area be conservation.
I believe that is correct, yes.
So why don't we work towards the solution of saying, we want Captain Sam's to be the plat to be subdivided with obviously what the developer wants to convey to Kika. That's one section. Another section is the actual Beachwalker Park with its facilities. That would be another section, and then the last would be the third section.
So my initial comments were that I think there's a ton of moving parts here, so it would be ideal if you have more information to really make that outcome that you see more desirable with all of those flexibilities and moving parts. I still want to make sure that it's understood that Planning Commission can't just automatically subdivide a property owner's parcel. Like that needs to be presented by the property owner.
Right, and they can't just subdivide as well. They need us to do the waiver, and we need them to do the other requests.
So back
So
to,
I agree, lots of moving parts, but I mean, ultimately, wouldn't that be the goal, that the Beachwalker Park would be Parks and Recreation and some of this other property would be conservation?
If that's the commission's desire to see portions of the lot to be conservation and portions of the lot to be Parks and Recreation, I would say that there's probably mechanisms to make that outcome happen. But I want you to know that zoning isn't the only tool to ensure that that can happen.
Yeah, one of the things that is approved usages. Yeah, and if Parks and Recreation, they can put a golf course there. It'd be a small golf course, but it'd be a golf course. They can put a tennis club there. You know,
They can put a restaurant there.
They can put a restaurant there. You know, I think that we're doing the comprehensive plan, and I think if you start doing that kind of thing, then guess what? You've got more traffic going down. Going down. What's that road? Beachwalker Drive. You've got more parking issues to come up with. I think there's a lot of things that need to be considered here, and I think that I don't know. We got this last week, and we got the details on Monday. I think is when we first got the details. You know, I think we're rushing to judgment on this.
Yeah.
I think that, I'm sorry, do you want to go ahead? I think there's pretty much consensus among at least the majority of the commissioners and the community that we don't want anything on Sam Spit. We don't want any development. We don't want it to be Parks and Recs because we don't want nature trails through it. It's habitat, it's bird sanctuary. So I think the goal of of many of us, I won't speak for everybody, and the community is to leave Sam Spit as it is. And what can we do to have that happen? I don't think we can make that zoning designation. I don't think we're going to approve Parks and Recs. I mean, I don't think there's support for that. I'd like to see it conservation, but we have this issue of Beachwalker being separate. If we zoned it all conservation, Beachwalker would be non-conforming, and that would become an issue in when does the lease expire, in 30 years or whatever, and then
99.
and 90 other people than us would have to deal with it. But my question is, I was reading through, again, the ARDA, and section 16F, one of the paragraphs says, and this is separate from the Kika conveyance, prior to the termination date, property owner also agrees to restrict all remaining highlands not devoted to the uses or purposes authorized herein to non-developable passive green space by restricted covenant recorded in the Charleston County RMC office. Property owner shall grant an easement to KINHC, is that you guys, for any acreage not subject to development, including such acreage as to be conveyed ultimately to Kika. I'm not a lawyer, but as I read this, anything that hasn't been developed prior to the expiration of the ARDA. The ARDA has expired. Nothing has been developed. I read that this has to, that the property owner has to do a restrictive covenant that this is non-developable passive green space. And I don't know that this issue has yet been resolved, but I think it needs to be resolved before we do anything. So I think our motion should be, let's say we want it to be, make it clear that we support conservation, but we understand that this issue has to be resolved before we can actually do anything. But we want to say conservation is what we want.
Well, let me ask the commission. Would somebody be interested in making a motion to defer this request until some of these moving parts have been resolved and take it up again at the March meeting?
Yes.
I'll move we table the discussion.
I'd also like to have in that somewhere whether we all, I'd like to have a statement on Parks and Recs. If we don't agree with that, I think we should make that statement in this.
I don't think we're in a position to agree with that at all until we understand how it's going to be resolved in terms of what plats are going to be cut out, what's going to be existing at the time. Let's let them do the work that has to be done, and then we can consider it. We can't consider the hypotheticals.
No, but can we make a statement of intent that it is our intent?
I don't know how we do that. How do you say
I
the
don't
commission
know.
says?
Can we- Mr. Wilson?
You can each explain your vote.
Yeah,
Put it in public record.
yeah. You put your vote record
Well,
in.
I think the other thing is, probably given the comments from the public today, that we will probably need another executive session as well.
I think that's perceptive. Okay, so
Wait, can I ask, I see we have a member of town council present.
I don't think, no, I,
Two.
Two.
yeah.
Oh,
I-
I keep thinking she's one
Yeah,
of
no,
ours.
I would like to I would like to move on this Andy's motion. Do we have a second for Andy's motion to defer this until March?
Second.
Okay, we got a motion. Any discussion? Yours is part of the discussion, which you just did.
Yeah, I just want to know, does anybody else understand this conveyance thing?
No.
better than
No.
I?
No.
I think it's pretty well known. Council is investigating that. That's been announced at previous
Yeah.
town council meetings. That town council is looking into
Yeah.
that issue.
So we should wait until that's resolved.
Okay. So, but I would, let me ask John, if we defer this until March, is it possible for us to have a public session where we could have as we've done before, get public comments?
We can schedule any public, whether before that meeting or that same day, we can schedule, yes.
Yeah, and I think that would, what's that?
We could have it at the meeting, so we don't have to.
Or we could have it at the meeting, or we could have, whatever's convenient. But I think it's important to allow the public, because we went through a process where we had a lot of meetings with the public when we made the recommendation in the first place. If we go back on it, I feel obligated to go back and get the public back involved.
I don't disagree with that, but I think if council takes this issue up on their meeting on the 4th, and there is a resolution, and there's a determination of what parcels will emerge, you're not expecting us to have a position in a day, are you?
No, so if this is tabled, we won't have a recommendation for town council. We would just wait until recommendation is formed by planning commission, then forward that on to town council.
Right, so why would we, again, if we table this, I think we table it until
Such time.
all the information is available and we can act on it, not until the 5th.
Yeah, but, okay, that's true, and I agree with that. I mean, but I personally feel that we should have some public input into this.
What can be done as part of the public comment, if
Yeah.
it's on the agenda, so we can do it as part of the public comment
Okay,
next
yeah,
meeting.
you're saying, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and one question, as we're looking at this, Joe, just in light of other events, do we need to do any postings as we think about zoning changes here?
Not to table it.
No, we don't know what
No,
they
but if we're
are.
considering zoning changes, this has been posted, is my question. Hadn't this been posted publicly?
Yes.
Yeah,
been posted,
I
right?
think I have a question on, I understood, I didn't
Joanne,
see
just
the-
let him
Oh, I'm
answer the
sorry,
question,
sorry,
Ian,
sorry.
John.
So this, we have already noticed this, yes, this has
Okay.
already been noticed,
Just want to
correct?
make sure. That's what I thought we had, but I want to make sure.
But the signs I heard that were on the beach say, it's a notice that it's going to be rezoned Parks and Rec.
That's the recommendation, Parks and Rec was the recommendation.
Okay, but it might not be our recommendation. So does that need to be changed
No.
to just there's a zoning
No,
change?
no. So we specifically, when advertising this particular, we included a recommendation. The previous notices, when we did do the rezoning, we did get a lot of public comments about the county park closing. So we tried to put language in to prevent that outcry of like this rezoning is closing the county park. So in our letters, we try to at least inform the community that this rezoning doesn't necessarily impact the operations of the county park. And so that Parks and Recreation was that attempt to show this is just a recommendation for Parks and Recreation.
Can we call the question, please?
Yeah, well, first of all, any more discussion?
How do you call the question?
I'm sorry? Did we call for it? Did we? Okay. All right, so we're moving to a vote.
You have
All in
to have a
favor?
vote to call the question.
You have to have a vote to call the question.
If you call the
You have to
question, we have to
second.
vote on whether we call the question.
Okay. So all in favor of deferring this until, how do we word it? Do we say until the next meeting or until we have the
Future
resolution?
meeting when all the information's available.
Okay.
So that's two motions, well, two things I want to make sure we're prepared. Is it that we have scheduled for public engagement and you said additional information?
Yeah, but I didn't get the sense that I had support, from the rest of the commission. What I heard him say is that we can have it at the next commission meeting.
Yeah, as long as it's on the agenda to discuss this, we can have public comment on this zoning
Yeah.
recommendation.
My concern is having public input, whichever format works the best.
Before whatever meeting we
So
think we.
before the actual agenda item is considered a separate item for public, whether we just do it
Right.
a pre sort of workshop
Right.
or whatever. Okay.
Okay? All right, so all we have now is a motion, and we're voting on a motion to table this until we have more information, or the next meeting, or when we have more information.
Well, I mean, technically, we have a vote to call the question, which really should have just been addressed immediately.
Okay,
Is there a second to the?
There was.
vote to call
In
the
a second,
question?
yeah.
okay. So
Now you have to have a vote on to call the question.
do we want to take a vote? Call the question.
No choice.
You have to have a vote.
I know,
It has to
that's what I'm
pass
saying. All in favor?
two-thirds.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, well, now you have to have a vote with no more discussion.
Okay, now the vote is on tabling the tabling motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Was that in all ayes? I just want to be clear.
Anybody, Andy, you didn't abstain, did you?
No, Andy voted. I didn't hear Joanne. Did you vote, Joanne?
Voted yes? Yeah. Joanne's an aye. So it's a unanimous. Okay. So that's the
On the mic.
formal part of, is that the formal, that's all the things that we have to consider at this point? Okay. So now, and we're going to do the informational phase on the changes to the Chapter 12 after the meeting, or as part of the meeting, or as part of comments. I'm not sure how that's.
It's part of our regular agenda, so we'll, unless you guys want to
Oh, I don't know. I'm
modify,
asking.
is it too late to modify I think it's too late to modify the agenda. But we can go directly into the discussion portion.
Okay, we can go to discussion. All right.
Yeah, so I'll just set this up. Just
Well,
very-
let me do this. I think that I'm not sure. I want to make sure that people who public comments are but people can make public comments. So I'm not sure, that's what I'm asking, John. Do we have to go through this first and then public comments, or can we have public comments and then go through this?
Joe,
Let's stick with the agenda that's been approved.
But I don't see it on the agenda.
I think you're allowed to have public comments. You
It's-
the
it's the
chair
last
can
item on the
engage with the
agenda.
public whenever he wants to.
Yeah.
it's the last item of the agenda.
Do public comment?
I think, though, as chair, you can engage with the public if you so choose.
No, I'm missing, we have a,
I don't see it on the agenda.
You just
Yeah.
deferred B and C, basically.
yeah, well, here's basically,
Back side of the agenda, okay, you see it's got correspondence, staff comments.
yeah,
Yeah.
What's the next item under that?
public comments. Well, I know that. Well, that's what I'm saying, is that, but we are going to discuss this. This was added to the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, but
That's my point. I mean, you know,
I think you can talk to the public now if you.
okay, so let's have the, we're going to have public, those who want to stay and listen to the, how we're going to make changes to how the planning commission operates, you can stay, but we're going to have public comments first on what we've covered so far. Any public comments? Naaman.
Mark
You got- you-
Kamara, 81 Dungannon Hall. I'm here representing Kiowa Partners. I think the conversation was appropriate. I do think, well, let's put it this way. There are no pending development plans that are submitted or being considered for this entire property. I think it is more complex, as you've revealed, than is readily apparent. I think the intent of everyone in the room of a best outcome for the greater community is appropriate, and I think the idea of more information, and I dare say collaboration on an outcome that benefits the greater community. And when I say community, I'm including who I'm representing. But I think it was an appropriate action by the Planning Commission. We look forward to participating in providing more information, but more importantly, joining others that have genuine concerns about any level of development out there.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, now we will move toward, we'll do the, this is as was explained to me, this is we're not going to make any decisions on this. The purpose of this session is to go through the Chapter 12 of our ordinances, and this is, and I'll read the, is it out there? No. This is that these are proposals to change Article 12 brought on by two of the county councilmen, Mr. Heidingsfelder and Mr. Belt. And our purpose here is, this is the first time we're being introduced to it, and to understand what the changes are, and I'm not sure, John, are we going to have the ability to ask questions to whom, or is just
So the idea is that these are suggestions. Planning Commission should take these suggestions into their normal zoning or any amendment process and vet them and bring forth back a recommendation.
Okay, well, I'm asking, because Mr. Heidingsfelder's here and Mr. Belt's left, are you going to, if we have questions, are you the information source?
I will do my best to answer.
No.
I'll do my best to answer any questions regarding what was provided.
Okay.
But at the same time, just treat this like a workshop, and
Okay.
we can go back and forth.
Got it.
So, what's before you, as Mr. Chair has outlined, this is looking comprehensive at the development process and for projects on Kiowa, to incorporate an overall review of how we administer review of particular projects. Today's meeting is just that, an introductory to several amendments with no action being taken today. and we'll consider potential actions at our March meeting. So I've broken these down just on this particular slide in 4 buckets based on sort of different categories that align within our zoning text. So I think that's how staff has processed these. They're just kind of listed in section order based on what you have in your materials. The first section, zoning, generally that falls under our zoning code that addresses just general persons or authorities. And so the authority and purpose section there, planning direction, impact fees are the first 3. Within the authority and purpose, this language that is being recommended, it outlines or just provides an additional level of detail regarding characteristics or more additional language that would look at the natural environment for Kiowa. Regarding 12-25, what's been added is language regarding the review applications for zoning permits and what might be considered in looking and reviewing those outside of what's in the technical requirements. And before I go further along, I shared with you in an email form that staff has not done a comprehensive review of all of these amendments to see consistency throughout the entire code. Neither has our legal counsel. Joe has looked at these either, so I just want to make sure that that was aware that this is very preliminary in us reviewing these documents. Red lines.
Will there be a need for our council to look at these two? I mean, I'm wondering, is there any possibility they would be not in compliance with state requirements?
There may not be holistically, but there might be some inconsistencies in how they're written that compromises another section of the ordinance.
Okay.
Are there any questions about the first 3 sections? I think it'd be a little bit easier to kind of ask you guys questions because you've seen the materials.
And I got a lot of questions on 1220. And really, the whole question is, why are we doing this? Most of it is self-explanatory as it was written, and the addition contains so much subjective and judgmental language that you question why it's even there and how you can be making decisions given and let's take the first one, implementing the vision of the goals of the comprehensive plan in a comprehensive and consistent manner. That's what you do. That's what your plan is. Why are we micromanaging what you do is what the question is, and why is it in a document that basically, and I'll be very candid, suggests that the staff doesn't understand what the requirements are and they need to be led by the hand. And it is, I think it's an insult to even suggest that some of this is needed in addition to what's already here. I think the planning directed requirements, the fact that the authority and purpose are explained, you may want to suggest impact fees being a new issue. That could be done separately. It doesn't need to be done as part of an overall change in the ordinance. The impact fee, I think, is something that warrants significant discussion on the part of the council and on the part of the commission if we're going to go forward with it. But in fact, the way it's being handled, impact fees are considered in many of the requirements of the applicant or the developer, if you will, when they're asked to get a traffic study or they're asked to get an environmental study, they're going to have to come back to you with the study. Yeah. They've paid for it. You don't have to pay for it. So the question is, why are we charging on top of that? Why are we charging impact fees?
Yes. Andy, if I can say, you're ahead of me on this. You're obviously gone through the document and have formed your thoughts and your challenges. I didn't. We're going to take it up in March again.
That's fine.
And But I think the purpose of this session was to, it's the first time many of us are seeing this, and just trying to get a grasp on what is being proposed as opposed to questioning why and purposes.
I think the biggest issue in my mind so far is from what I've gone through, and I didn't notice a whole lot beyond impact fees being discussed here.
Page 27 has a big one.
If you can reference a section that,
Site plan review, 12-162. That's a big addition, that site plans for basically large development process must be reviewed by the planning director and then submitted to the planning commission for its review and approval. That's a new level of approval that doesn't currently
Another
exist.
overreaction to timbers.
It's,
Or
you
anything.
could call it an overreaction, but it
This whole thing
is,
is an overreaction to a problem that doesn't exist.
Again, I think we're going to save the debate for March. I think at this point in time is just to let John walk us through the document so we understand what's in it, okay?
Yep.
Okay?
yeah, so those first three sections, to Mr. Capelli's opening comments, a lot of it just adds
Details.
in my mind, there's nothing substantive added to the first sections of these. Impact fees, what Ms. Hennessy just recognized in site plan review, what's been outlined in the zoning districts, a change in lot coverage standards. Those are and then I'll get to the land use regulations, but those would be the three biggest sort of takeaways that are being presented. Impact fees, sort of significant projects would being now introduced for review and approval by the Planning Commission. And I think what I would say as staff is, in your beginning to understand is, think about what scope and scale would be appropriate to be administratively approved versus what would be approved by the Planning Commission.
Can I interrupt again? Sorry.
Yes.
So for the impact fees, I guess one of the things besides the actual question of fees, I wondered, given sort of some of the recent history, whether this would be a point where you should say, traffic impact studies, environmental impact studies, floodwater or engineering impact studies, if we should, at this point, try to put in some wording where that becomes standard, so that given the size of a development, if it's a large multifamily development, that they would automatically require a traffic impact study, environmental impact study, and engineering study.
So if that is the desire, then not getting too much into the weeds, that can be something applied to a different section of zoning code as a requirement for site plan review, an additional study. So those are the types of things that I would say from a staff level, the structuring of some of these have not gone through and sort of made recommendations on how they best would be implemented.
Well, like I said, that was just one thought that I had, that not so much about the actual fees, but maybe this would be an appropriate time to sort of put in standards where, given a large development, that those would automatically require these types of studies.
So John, just kind of an extension to what Mr. Curran is saying or asking is, do we have a schedule of fees for what things cost that's published anywhere?
We do not, as far as impact fees, the town does not currently levy an impact fee.
Just any other type of fees, though? Like, the reason I'm asking this is I look at Charleston's comprehensive plan and their zoning ordinances, and they have a fee schedule that's about 3 pages
We have
Or
a
5
plan-
pages long.
We have a planning fee schedule for applications, if that's what you're referencing.
This covers everything from impact fees for traffic, transportation, cost sharing, to things as simple and develop PDUs, to
Well, they
simple
do-
as something as an ordinance plan document in digital form.
Yeah,
So
but
it
they do
covers the
more-
whole range.
They do more than we do, so.
So, like I said, we have
I'm just asking if there's a schedule.
we have a planning fee schedule for application types. And so that would include like if someone's requesting subdivision or rezoning or et cetera, those, we do have a fee schedule. I think you're alluding to is a more robust engagement of how a municipality would issue fees depending on a particular development project, which we do not, like I said, we do not levy any impact fees.
This is a question that Joe can consider, since we're talking about issues that need to be discussed, if you will, going forward. The impact fee issue calls for the fees to be basically shared by KICA, the town, and the developer. If the development is behind the gate, what, if any, fees or transfer of cost can be made by the town
Those
behind
would
the
be,
gate?
I mean, those would be all things that if we are
Well,
considering.
that's why they say, that's something for Joe to think about.
Yeah, I would say,
And when we
yeah.
get to that point, that's a question that might be asked.
He's referencing number 1 under, but we'll look into that.
What would you charge for permit fees now for building permits
Correct.
behind the gate?
Correct.
So any type of, I figure
Quite a long
legislative.
process that
Yeah.
the town has to go through to impose impact fees.
Right.
It is an extensive process. So, I mean, all of those things will have to come into play.
So do we have more to go, John?
Just one more. I mean, I've mentioned briefly the zoning mapping districts, the R residential zoning categories. What's being requested there is that essentially 33% becomes the maximum lot coverage. Under R3 zoning district, that would be for whether it's a multifamily, townhouse, duplex, any type that falls under the R3 category. So as well under the R2 category, that those become 33%, no matter the lot size.
So,
And then just the final thing that I'll highlight, just that you're aware, under the land use and use regulations, what's being proposed here is there's some complications of how this is written already, but a second tier of conditional uses, which the planning commission would be subject to review based on the conditions of a use. So I just wanted to point you out, that's regarding section 12-102. And then the final being temporary uses, looking at how sites are administered pre and post conditions.
John, just backing up to residential district 1 and 2. At the end of 2, there's lot coverage, a table. Is that intended for 1 and 2, or is there supposed to be a lot coverage for R1?
I mean,
There is.
you're in section R2?
I'm R2, yes, I'm
R1's
into
on page-
R2. There is a, on page 7, there's a schedule for lot coverage.
Right.
For R1, there's not a
It's a-
specific schedule for lot coverage. So is it?
It's on this page,
It's on
Mac-
page 5.
maximum lot
They put the
coverage.
columns differently. Page 5 is the
Okay.
second column.
John, on the
Thank you.
lot coverage on page 5, we talk about reducing the categories with respect to the housing types, and I think maybe there was an intention to do it, but you're basically eliminating the ability to build a house consistent with the neighborhood or consistent with the type of housing we have here on Kiowa. If we reduce a patio home lot to 33%, you probably have enough room for a cottage, maybe. They're reducing not only the size, but reducing the value, not only of that house, but of the neighborhood. If we start building lower-cost housing in areas, certain areas, and there's not much in the way of patio homes around here, so I'm not even sure that it's necessary to make a change, but a change would have consequences. And I don't know that that was considered when the proposal was made.
Yeah,
That I
wonder
can't speak to. I don't know if those things were considered when this was drafted. Those are staff concerns, but yeah,
I mean, one of the other things in the comprehensive plan, I mean, we talk about fulfilling the vision and what it takes to fulfill a vision. We don't talk about value of homes particularly. We talk about the overall values of the island. But I think you got to take a look at, individually these categories rather than just a broad brush and say, okay, we're going to change it all to 33.
John, so this is something that the staff has not gone through yet?
that's correct.
Okay, so when we get together in March, the staff will have gone through it and will have comments on it.
I would still suggest that you guys provide comments as well, but yes, staff has not went
So
through
we give
this
you
at
comments
all.
and you're going to have comments, and this
Yes,
is the dialogue we're going to have in March.
Yes, I think it's important to realize that some of this really takes some time to understand the implications. So I don't want you guys to just automatically begin to just red line without thinking through some of the implications.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it, frankly, is comments by the staff would not be appropriate because they're basically, the comments run in many respects to a belief that the staff isn't doing their job.
Yeah.
And frankly, that's not something the ordinance needs. If they want to do it somewhere else, put it there, but it's just I think it's an insult.
Yeah,
to
no,
the
I was
staff.
thinking more about the technical issues, like the 33%.
Yeah, I was curious, would that make like Riverview? I mean, Riverview, it would be, you couldn't build Riverview
lot.
today by these lot coverages, I wouldn't think.
There are a number of sites that, if these changes, you would create nonconformities.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, I don't think nonconforming is generally a problem, but I just, there are some areas where you might want to put another Riverview. So I have some concerns with just the blanket lot coverage things for some of these other kinds of houses, but we can talk about that.
Mark, you may know this. What's the number for R1 that the ARB uses? Is it 35% or 33%?
During the term of the development agreement, they had license to increase that 20%. So 38%, or what I don't know what the math is, to 39%. So for example, Riverview, majority of those homes in Riverview had to request the upper range in that. So in support of the general conversation, which is more formal, and so go back and discuss it. I already know that R2 and the R3 categories with using reductions in ground coverage.
I'm not hearing any of this. Who's
Yeah,
speaking?
It's Mark, Mark's talking from.
Mark Mar was talking. He's just supporting
Yeah, go
that
ahead.
we need to look at these
Yes,
lot
that's-
coverage numbers more closely.
Yeah. We need to make
Have at
sure one of our August members gets the full value.
I apologize. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so in support of the conversation that is taking place, which is, this is an opportunity to do more homework and understand the ramifications of consideration of this, I would say two things. The first is more impactful. As presented, there will not be one R2 or R3 existing condition that will be conforming. And I understand the non-conforming, but this complicates, for example, patio homes. It very much complicates someone that does a tear down, and there is no room to build a house with 33%. And there are a significant number of these. It's not apparent because these were done in the 70s and early 80s, but the vast majority of West Beach along the ocean, there are a whole series of patio home site neighborhoods in particular, and all of the multifamily built in the 80s and early 90s won't meet these criteria. So I understand that maybe the issue of nonconforming isn't important, but this now, as presented, will directly impact an overwhelming number of property owners in ways that aren't apparent. Now, I support the idea of sort of backing up and looking at all our ordinances, like reflecting on all our ordinances, like road code, zoning, all these, how they work together. Most of them were produced during the 80s or inherited from Charleston County when the town incorporated in 88, right? The seal's gone. So I do think this is an opportunity for our community to reflect on our ordinances and update them in a responsible way. That's the only thing I would add to it.
Thanks, Mark.
And just for everybody else's benefit, so Mark mentioned tear down. In renovations, you do not have to come into complete compliance, at least with the ARB. You do have to make a good faith effort to reduce. So I'll give you a specific example. I know someone who has a house that's 42% lot coverage. In a renovation, they're going to 40%, and that was totally acceptable by the ARB. The other thing that's happened too is, as a way to manage big houses, the ARB currently considers permeable and non-permeable surfaces as the same. They're called lot coverage. So if you have a gravel driveway, it's still generally considered part of the lot coverage. But again, they do take umbrance that you are trying to do something that reduces the overall coverage, so they do work with you. But it does directly affect, as you said, Mark, new construction. You may not see new construction if you have a 33% limit on patio homes for those very small lots.
Okay. Any other comments or on this? So we have a work in process here, and we'll be getting back to it in March.
So one last question. So C2, we would basically just go through what's C now, and some would be left as C1, and then some would be moved to C2?
I really need time to go through that. It's premature to make those determinations, and it's not structured, Dr. Curran, in a way that it's applicable to zoning, standard zoning practice. So I really need to be able to present that in a way of how you would read a conditional use chart.
Okay, yeah, because when we've looked at those charts in the past, there were Cs, but now we're creating a whole new category.
Ron, what do you? What are we looking at? We're having trouble following you.
Just in the conditional uses, the principal use regulations, the table,
Yeah.
it does not have any.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But I don't see a C1 or a C2. Oh, I see.
The language is presented.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well,
All right.
well, go ahead. Anything else, Ron?
Nope.
Okay. Well, I still would say that it does, and I understand Andy's point about some of these being a little sensitive, but I think, on the technical issues, I think if we can get some input from the staff, that would help me, just like we had just right now.
Would you
And then
prefer?
one last question, since these are kind of these aren't moving up from us, but actually coming down to us from town council, what is our say in these things anyhow? Since they're writing these.
Yeah, well, I asked that question a bit ago, and first of all, the way I read this is that this didn't come from town council. This came from two councilmen who worked on it. Okay? So I'm not sure, I'm not sure if the council even voted on this.
No, they
No.
They didn't. So this is the opinion of two councilmen who see things that they would like to have changed and adapted. So that's number one. Number two, I also was told that the the planning commission operates independently of the town council. And the town council, we make recommendations that can be accepted, can be denied, or can be amended. So the point being is that they can ask us to do these things. We can say, no, I think you're wrong. This is the way it should be. And they could say, no, we think we're right and we're going to do it this way anyway.
Right. Well, that's what I mean. It seems like the process is going in the reverse order.
Yeah.
No, and all the third reason for it, they just want cover. They want cover for something that doesn't make any sense.
Oh, I disagree.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
I'm sure you
disagree with
would.
that.
I don't want to.
You would.
I don't want to assume motives, Andy. So
That's inappropriate.
because there's no way. There's no
Just
way.
gave us two motives. I give you a third.
So okay, are we through with? Okay, so as I said, work in process. Stay tuned next month.
Do you want us to submit comments on this?
Yeah, I
Is
think
that-
you do. John, you requested comments on this, right?
Yeah, I will, I mean, I think that's helpful, just so I know where you're thinking.
Okay.
To provide comments. Like I said, a lot of it is very premature to provide detail of implications today, having not go through it comprehensively, but your comments will help inform.
In
And
terms
isn't
of
it the
comments,
job
how
of the
detailed do you want them? I mean, if we're going to tell you,
I mean,
can
you
we
don't have to
consider
go
the
in-
setbacks?
You don't have to go in, whatever you feel comfortable. So if you've already spent some time into it and review, you can do as much as you want. But if you think you want to stay at a high level and allow the commission to do our normal process of workshopping it through to get it to a comfortable stage, it's up, whatever you feel comfortable with.
And one thing I learned from John is do it in writing. Send it to him in writing.
And isn't it the job of the planning commission to suggest ordinance changes, which is why it came to us to, they have some ideas, but we're the ones who suggest ordinance changes and then recommend it to them.
It's done a little bit in reverse order of typically a particular item would say, Planning Commission, can you study this issue, bring back us a recommendation, opposed to seeing red line documents. So I would say it's different in formatting that way. But you're correct. I mean, the Planning Commission is a recommending body to council. So whatever you guys recommend, we will take to council.
Okay. Thanks, John. So we have now correspondence and staff comments. You're commented out. All right. So we went through the public comments. Now we have commissioners' comments. And I would like to invite each commissioner. I know Joanne would have liked us to had a planning commission statement. I didn't know how to do that. So I think as Joe said, is that I think in your comments, if you want to make a comment, I think this is the place to do it. All right, so we will start with you, Ron.
I didn't follow what you were just talking about. What are we trying to make a grand statement about?
Well, Joanne was requesting that the planning commission state a planning commission position on preferring conservancy over park and recreation. And,
Okay.
And so, Joe suggested that we'd be doing it individually.
To be clear, yeah, you can do it now, but actually what I was suggesting is when you voted, you could explain your vote.
Oh, explain your vote, okay.
But you can do it now as well.
Okay, so we'll do it now. So, okay, got it, Ron?
Yes, I do. Well, I feel like my opinions are probably mirror much of what the community thinks, in that we like Captain Sam Spit as it is and don't foresee it with a hot dog stand and, So, and obviously, I don't think that's anybody's intention, but, I think we just have to let the process evolve. It sounds like the next step in the process will, finding out much more about this conveyance and then granting the waiver to subdivide the plat. So I think as the process evolves, we'll obviously get more direction. But, I support keeping Captain Sam Spit as is, and appreciate that the developer is, conveying the land to Kika, and hopefully, we'll have a great outcome. Other than that, I have no further comments.
Thank you. Joanne?
Yeah, I echo what Ron said. I think we want to maintain Captain Sam's as open space conservation. We don't want the Parks and Recs designation because of the permitted uses would materially impact the habitat there. We're unclear legally what we can do, given it is one plat, and we cannot subdivide somebody else's property. So we'll wait and see what the conveyance is. As I read that conveyance, I'm sure they didn't intend it to give us the high ground, but the intention was to have it developed. But since it wasn't developed by the end of the agreement, it looks like it'll be conveyed, but we'll wait and let the legal people decide that.
Thank you. Andy?
I would remind the members of the commission that town council sort of addressed the same question a while back, a couple months ago. And I think informally they've agreed that they will not be sending the views of the council. And I think the first one went to deal with the medical center without a background of the community that they claimed they were speaking for. Subsequently, they agreed that in the future, if the town expresses, not the council, but the town expresses a view, it should be based on a vote or a survey of the town members, not just the council, not just the planning commission or anyone else, but where I stand on this is only where I'm going to be after we consider it as a commission member. It's not my view that's going to count, it's the commission's view. I do not think it's appropriate for any commissioner to speak independently on any issue, just like it is not appropriate for us to discuss items on an agenda outside of the commission hearing or the meeting unless we're in a group where it's appropriate. The fact is, this commission should be independent. The procedures call for an unbiased view, and I think that's what we have to give them.
Thank you. Mark? I mean, Luke. I always think Matthew and Mark look at Jack. Yeah, I do. That's exactly where I'm at.
You're not the first one who's done that, so don't worry about it. I like where we're headed with the direction of Captain Sam Spit. I am reminded that I think I voted for Conservation District when we originally made this vote on Captain Sam Spit, so I can certainly say that I'm pleased with this direction there. I do think when the land is conveyed to Kika and then all that's finalized and registered, that it would be in the town's best interest if Kika had a separate plat or a separate ID number, whatever it's called for, so we could properly zone that and then also properly zone Captain Sam Spit if they should be different, the developable portion of that. I'm happy that the town is having some reaction to both what the staff is doing and what we're doing and suggesting changes and prodding us to think about these things. Some people think that's not appropriate. I like the idea of them challenging us to think about it. We're an independent body, so we can take these red line comments and throw them out, start new, not do anything. But it's not bad to review things, especially for me being a new person, to have somebody say, think about this and is this appropriate? So I do like that. I think the Vice Chairman has done a great job of running the past two meetings with a lot of help from everybody else, but he's done a nice job. So I do want to thank him for doing that in the absence of Mr. Dowdy.
Thank you. My only comment is I should be glad when Bill's back. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.